Today, we are going to be focusing on the performance outlook for 2022. We have several segments, and we're going to kick it off with the economy. I'm going to ask a producer to show us the slide that is the forecast for GDP growth in the US compared to Europe. And the big surprise here really is Europe actually forecast to have stronger GDP growth next year than the US. Partly reflecting earlier stimulus in the US and an earlier, it's called rollout of the vaccine in the US. But kind of surprising that Europe has forecast stronger growth. You early this year made an allocation shift into more Europe. Tell us about your thoughts on the economy for the US, economy for Europe, and where you're investing in Europe.
If you look at Europe over the last 18 months, one thing they've done successfully is get a much larger percentage of their populations in the major economic zones vaccinated. So the impact of the Delta virus is slightly less in Europe than it is right now, ripping through the North American market where we had less, than 50% at one time, even first vaccines. So vaccines are a factor. Secondly, stimulus programs in Europe are very, very aggressive. They also are making sure their economies are sustained during this emergency. And as a result, the Eurozone is starting to be a very attractive place to put money to work because on a relative basis of value, you talk about companies, and I'm using an index, OEUR, that has the top 50 Swiss, Eurozone, British companies that are in many cases household names in North America, the Nestle's and the Roches and everything else, that really give you an idea that many of these companies trade at a much lower valuation, yet have sometimes half their revenue in the United States. So it's a zip code that's been very unpopular in previous years, but now looks like it's worth an allocation. At least in my case, I've made it 20%.
Well, you're doing well with that. OEUR actually year to date is up over 20%. It is ahead of the generic indexes and performing quite well. I'll also point out for people, money flows into the Europe ETFs have gone positive this year, 15 billion positive after several years of negative flows. So the money is going to Europe. The money, Kevin, is following you to Europe. So made an early call this year, done well with it. Thanks for your insights.